right, I am back with a marathon video. I guess I could have talked more about Dragon Age. I could talk about Festival of the Lost, which launches later today, but I mean, is that going to be super different? Probably not. I mean, if it is, I'll talk about it, but I wanted to talk about that pretty strange marathon video that released yesterday from well, not really new, game director Joe Ziegler. So I heard this was happening a while ago, that amidst all this talk and all these leaks about the game, a lot of which are from me, he was going to come out and say something about the game and like kind of explain some things, and like, all of these rumors about this being a hero shooter and like all this stuff. And then they were going to do like a larger reveal next spring. But I wasn't expecting the video to be that insubstantive. Like it was almost nothing. It was just a very strange video in the sense that one of my friends texted me and he's like, that video just gave me less confidence in Marathon going forward. And I mean, I get it, because it was like almost a 10-minute video, which is longer than I heard it was going to be. And just a lot of it was like explaining what an extraction shooter is, which I don't think was really a question. It's like, oh, you're in an environment and you fight enemies, and then you have to extract your gear or you lose your gear. And then it's like talking about, what you do in the game. It's like you find weapons, and it's like sometimes you'll find grenades, and he's like, you'll find items that will heal you. I'm like, how are we talking about this? What? This is not what people want to know about Marathon. Like, what is going on here? And the actual information that was relayed was very, very minimal stuff about the hero aspect of the game, where they're called runners and they have some individual, components and abilities, but a lot of it is going to be, the stuff you acquire in game. And then they showed off concept art of two of them, one of which, these don't even have names. One is Thief, one is Stealth. And that, implies implicit powers that they have. And that was kind of it. And, I think the idea was to convey that at least this is not like an Overwatch hero shooter where everyone has like totally fixed kit and like totally, fixed weapons and stuff. But like, if it's an extraction shooter, like obviously, you're going to have fixed weapons when you have to like loot all this stuff on the ground. But they didn't go into any detail about this. And like, I've heard all these things about like how there's these like external, component and modification systems, and like no details about that at all. It was just kind of the barest brushing over of sort of what this concept is, and then showing, two individual runners and not showing their kits, just sort of implying what they do. And like the strangest part about this is that, so no gameplay footage was shown. It's been a year and a half since the trailer debut, and then several months since Ziegler said he was going to show more. So we're going to be approaching essentially 2 years between them announcing the game and any sort of gameplay, it seems. And just based on the state of what was in this video and what he said, it is very hard to imagine that Marathon is actually going to be out in full or any meaningful capacity in 2025. He's talking about, how the environments are coming together, but like we need to work, the heroes aren't, and then the enemies, like not really. And like, he talked about how more testing and stuff would open up in 2025, and like, no dates for anything. Didn't announce the next showcase. Didn't show off anything but 2 pieces of concept art after a year and a half. Like, I get that you may not have like a ton of stuff that's finished to show off, but like, I mean, come on. Like, granted, I'm glad for 2 new images that I can use as thumbnails and headers, because I literally been taking every single frame of the trailer from a year and a half ago and using that for articles and videos and stuff. So, take the wins where you can get them. But the problem here is that what I've heard for a while now is that Sony really, really wants Marathon to come out in 2025. And obviously a big chunk of Bungie is working on it, like several hundred people. More people are still working on Destiny, because Destiny is a bigger game and, kind of harder to manage than something that's just straight multiplayer. But Sony really, really wants Marathon to come out because there's a lot riding on that. And it's yet again something that's supposedly, kind of a make or break thing for Bungie. We also heard that about the Final Shape. Final Shape had a lot of players. Final Shape was really well received, and they laid off like 200 people. So very hard to trust either Bungie leadership or Sony about, whatever they say about what's going to happen with Marathon. But I also heard that like getting the game in like a quote proper shape before 2026 seems like a big stretch. And what this seems like now is that they're leaning into probably pushing that to 2026. Maybe we'll get some, alphas and betas, and like they're still in like the secret creator play testing phase. And again, it's like more stuff he's stating that's just the obvious. It's like, we've gotten people to play it and like we're changing the game based on feedback. And it's like, yeah, that's how it works. And like, Joe Ziegler's a very talented guy. Like he was the big, director of Valorant. Like that has obviously become a success. And I believe that, he probably has good ideas for Marathon. I just don't really understand what the point of this video was, and the sheer lack of any new information or anything it showed. And like my reporting, other people's reporting, like we all have way, way, way more details than this. They didn't even confirm the price or confirm that it's not free to play. You can wish list the game on Steam now. Yay. Like that's a good like internal metric for them. I guess, but does wishlisting automatically imply it's paid? I'm not quite sure how that works. But just a very strange situation. And all of this said, I know this is super negative, but like, I still have a good amount of faith in Marathon. What the biggest thing with Concord is everybody looked at Concord and was just like, this is going to be ass. And it was ass. At least, the aesthetics are what initially killed that game. Like, yeah, gameplay wasn't as, breakout as it needed to be. But it was okay. It was pretty good. But just the aesthetics were terrible. The aesthetics of Marathon are awesome. And like, even through this new concept art, still look awesome. Like, I would love to see another kind of trailer just to see if it's still that vibe. I heard it is that vibe. And I heard that they were so excited that people liked that design so much that they're leaning even harder into it. I think there's going to be some potentially interesting narrative stuff here. And like, yeah, it's an extraction shooter and you're not exactly playing Tarkov for the plot or whatever. But Julia Nardin just announced that she moved over from Destiny to be, I think, narrative director of Marathon. And it's implied there's going to be, I think a good amount of story components here. I mean, maybe like Helldivers level stuff, but like even that, like Helldivers is a pretty interesting world they've set up, and like it's kind of a parody and all that, but this feels to me like it's going to have maybe more story and more interesting things in that regard than people think. Also, this is fundamentally a Bungie shooter. Bungie hasn't made a bad shooter. Like mechanically, they have not made a bad shooter. Obviously, I like Destiny, obviously I like Halo, and like these are big successful series. And like I know Bungie has had its struggles, but if at its core you can have a shooter that feels like a Bungie shooter, that is a great baseline that so many other games don't have. And like Concord was like half-assing it, where like they had a lot of Bungie people there and they sure took a whole lot of Destiny abilities for that game, but it still didn't feel like a Bungie shooter. And 343 has been trying to emulate how Bungie's Halo felt back in the day, and like I think they got pretty close, honestly, with infinite multiplayer at this point. But and then Destiny, for all its ups and downs, maintained that is still one of the best feeling shooters on the market, if not the best feeling. Like everyone is pretty used to COD and third person, everyone's playing Fortnite, but like for my money, I think it is still mechanically one of the best shooters on the market. And if Marathon can channel any of that, I think that's great. I also think Bungie is at least innovative enough to not just be fully trend chasing here, because I mean, we can be excited or not excited about an extraction shooter, but they are right in that there is not really a mind market here. When you think of extraction shooter, what do you think of? Tarkov. Tarkov is not exactly, some sprawling mega giant series at this point, and there are not really, AAA extraction games at all. So I would be curious to see how this performs in the market. It's a big risk because, rather than just make like, I don't know, a normal arena shooter, like you're doing something that doesn't really exist. But like, I think it would be bad to do a normal arena shooter. I think trying to stand out with some other, 3v3, 4v4, 5v5 type thing or battle royale or whatever is pretty played out at this point. So I don't know if an extraction shooter is going to be anyone's favorite genre. Like it may take a lot of getting used to. I'm not a big PvP person, so I don't know if this is a game I'm going to be spending a ton of time on, even as a big Bungie fan. But this seems smarter to me than to just try to do, yet another Apex or yet another Valorant or like whatever. You know what I mean? Like Concord, one of the reasons that tanked too is because it was competing in the same space as all these other games, and it didn't look to be branching out. And I think if Marathon was just some sort of 5v5 shooter, even with this aesthetic, I that doesn't seem like that would stand out enough. And if they can do extraction stuff with a Bungie twist, I was hoping we'd hear more about like what a Bungie twist might be in this initial explanation, which we got nothing like that. I think it could do well. In terms of a timeline, the timeline is the thing where it's like, this does not seem to be on track for what was originally supposed to happen. We will see if, there's some significant testing by the end of next year. Hopefully, love to see an open alpha, open beta, something like that, something people can actually play. A lot of these games sort of just exist in beta perpetually. Like Fortnite was in beta for years, technically. I don't think that's going to be what happens here because they are going to sell this game for $40, and that needs to be like a complete game. Like, so that is kind of a key element here. This was a weird video. I don't think it needed to exist. I almost think it was worse than just not doing anything because of how little it conveyed and making it seem like the game is like not in great shape or not far along. Maybe this will change in the spring, but again, you're doing your big showcase in spring of 2025, which you didn't announce here that is supposed to happen, but we'll see, in a game that's supposed to be out in 2025. That seems like a stretch. So, I mean, I personally don't care if it gets out in 2025. I'll wait till whenever, but internally, like, Bungie is really supposed to be getting this out by 2025, and that doesn't seem likely. And I don't want Bungie to have to go through any more shit because they've gone through a lot, and that would be bad. So I'm hoping they can. I hope Marathon's a big success. Why would I not hope that? I know people that are there working hard, and no one wants to see failures unless you're one of these like a-hole, like this woke game should fail things. Like that's not factoring in here, and you should not want any game to fail. Everyone should just want a new good game to play. And me being negative is not like I want to hate this game. It's like there are aspects of this that concern me. But I do remain fundamentally optimistic about Marathon, even if it is a new shooter in a competitive market and sort of a risk in terms of the genre. So anyway, let me know what your thoughts were on the video. I'm curious if people were perhaps more compelled by it than I was. But thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.